Madam Speaker, this week the Public Bills Committee heard from the relatives of two young men who were killed outside Halifax bars, in fact in Halifax Citadel-Sable Island. Theresa Giffin and Sawyer spoke at length about how their loved ones could have been saved by the Security and Investigative Services Act. Unfortunately, this act has never been proclaimed, and it will be repealed if the Justice Administration Amendment Act is enacted. Will this government honour the memories of Stephen Giffin and Ryan Sawyer and proclaim this act now?
I recognize the Honourable Deputy President of the Executive Council.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you to the member for this important question. Our hearts go out to the Sawyers and Giffins and all families who have experienced unimaginable tragedies under these circumstances. Our government is committed to doing everything that we can to support the safety of Nova Scotians. We have taken steps over the last few years to improve the safety in these areas, including in 2023, we introduced mandatory training and criminal record checks for security staff at all of our cabarets. And in 2024, we made responsible alcohol services training mandatory for all 2,500 provinces licensees. And Madam Speaker, we will continue to do everything we can to keep Nova Scotians safe.
I recognize the Honourable Member for Halifax Citadel-Sable Island.
Madam Speaker, safe serving training is really important, but the regulatory changes announced by this government only apply to cabarets, as the minister noted. So that's only a small percentage of bars in Nova Scotia, and they don't go far enough. Theresa Giffin and Sawyer have clearly pointed this out. They explained in great detail in public bills how the government changes fall short, and they have called out this government for a lack of accountability. So the easiest thing to make Nova Scotians safer is to proclaim this act before the Justice Administration Act is enacted. How can this government keep listening to folks, provide them with the solutions and provide them with their stories, and refuse to proclaim this life-saving legislation?
I recognize the Honourable Deputy President of the Executive Council.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And for clarity, I want to remind everyone that the purpose of updating the Interpretation Act is to improve clarity about enforced legislation. There are more than 200 pieces of outdated and unproclaimed legislation still on the books, like the Provincial Exhibition Act of 1923, the Insurance Act of 1932, and the Atlantic Stock Exchange Act of 1966. And Madam Speaker, one of the things that I do want to say is that this legislation that the member is referring to be proclaimed was introduced by an NDP government. So perhaps they would like to take an opportunity in the House to explain why they did not proclaim it.